when you're an organization that's been around 20 years, you do a lot of learning over that time. And we have learned as an organization and as board members and as individuals, a lot of lessons.
Looking into the future a little bit, and this is maybe a more of a general observation, but something that I think will be absolutely crucial to the continued success and growth of SaskCulture is to continue investing in its volunteers. That every single board member understands their role and the need that they're serving and continues to connect with the community. And that continual just renewal of the skills and building of leadership, regardless of what changes in the environment and what changes internally in the organization, that's what's going to keep it vital.
I think too it's important that you approach the job with passion. You know, we all make mistakes, we take wrong directions sometimes. That's how we learn and that's how we move forward. But regardless, if you do it with passion, with conviction, then you're always going to be successful. You're always going to leave a positive marker, and I think that's really important. There's a lot of people who, you know, they just see, I don't have time for that, or I don't want to get involved with that. But if they do it passionately, they're going to find that they do have the rewards that they're looking for. I think that's really important. I think all of us here approached our jobs at that time with passion, right? And the fact of what's gone on here today, that passion is still very much a fire, and I think that's really wonderful. So hopefully those who take place after us and move us into the future will have that same kind of passion, that same kind of commitment to organization.
And it's not about you personally, it's about something for the community and working together with community. I wonder about one thing, and that is, do you remember, and some of you will, all those reports that were on the minister's table? There were something like 13 reports. And though I'd really like to look at those reports. I don't want this job, but I'd really like to look at those jobs and to see what we've accomplished and what's needed for the future. If some of those reports are totally redundant now and the community has embraced everything, I don't think so, but I really would like to take a look at those for the future.
I think, yeah, future boards need to keep flexible, keep listening, keep leading by example. You know, that's worked in the past, being able to do what we expect other organizations or other recipients of funds to do. You know, don't ask more than you're willing to do yourself, but also be willing to take the risks and do the things that need to be done. And Saskatchewan's been changing. It is going to keep changing. It's in 20 years' time, it'll be something we can't imagine right now. And so you'll have to be ready for those challenges. But if you meet them with an open mind and a willingness to take risks, you'll be able to meet those challenges.
I think maintaining good linkages with the membership, the ownership is important, as long as you're getting that feedback from them, reporting back to them about what you're doing. I think that'll keep the organization going in the right direction.
And also a continued focus on the vision and on the ends. When I think about our current ends, that there is a strong ecosystem of support for cultural activity in the province, that people value and support culture, and that access and inclusivity are increased, roughly paraphrasing. In any case, the thing I like about those three, and there are other ways of expressing that too, so they could very well change, but I think even if SaskCulture didn't exist, there are many people in the province that would look at those three things and say those are worth some kind of attention and growth. And that to me speaks of why an organization should exist. So if there's a continued scrutiny of that and saying, how could we reach those ends better, then you've got a recipe for a healthy organization.
Putting efforts into strong recruitment procedures to make sure you identify people who have that passion for the cultural community. And when I look back on the boards I've been on, the weakest members of the boards are people who came on there with a private agenda, what they thought they were going to bring forward. They weren't thinking about the cultural community as a whole. They were thinking about their particular little piece of the universe that they thought they could get something for. And so strong recruitment is important.
Board members, when they walk in, they need to know that they're not alone, that there are other people around the table who share the same kind of enthusiasm, which you don't want to lose, as Peter alluded to, and that what you're doing is good, that this is ultimately going to benefit your community. It's going to benefit yourself as well, but ultimately your community. And if you always remember that you're there to do good things, and that you're not alone in doing those things, that you're doing it with, collectively, it I think can be a really worthwhile endeavor for any board member.
In looking into the future, I think boards and organizations need to think of the strength that this is built on. I think in 2019, SaskCulture and its predecessor organization will be 40 years old. I think it started around 1979, or that's when the first president was, so in that time frame. So as you look at, past history and the strengths, and I think the Saskatchewan motto is from many people's strength. And I think in this case, I think SaskCulture is very well situated in the work that it does from many people, cultural diversity strength. And going forward, I think that is something that future boards and staff and members and the community at large can, as you look at how the province has changed in 20 years, just think how it's going to change going forward. And I think that culturally vibrant Saskatchewan that we envision will be continue to be well served by this many peoples that have come together.
Yeah.
Volunteering, especially at the board level and also for all the other volunteers that help out on the organization level, has been really key to the success of SaskCulture for the last 20 years and will be going forward. You bring in what you can onto the board, and it's a passion, and it's been talked about before. You're passionate about culture, you're passionate about advancing the vision, and you really want to help, which is why you volunteer. You're really committed to what the organization stands for. But the other piece that you don't really think of in the same way is what you get out personally from volunteering. You grow so much as a person. You've got more experiences, you've learned a lot, you've met a lot of interesting people, communities across the province. So it's really an amazing relationship you have with SaskCulture when you do volunteer on the board, because I think you get out, I would say, even more than what you might put into it. It's unbelievable, and I think it's also a lifelong commitment. Once you've started, it's really just hard to stop. And you can see that from the past presidents that have come before me, for sure, because they are still active, engaged, and contributing to ensuring the success of the SaskCulture board. A lot of times, you might do something, and then once you finish, you're done. That's the end of it. But there seems to be a continuing legacy when you do volunteer with SaskCulture.
Well, I agree with you completely, and I think that the board builds the passion of each of us, but I want to speak to the community at large, because just coming off of nominations chair, I found that the community has a great respect for SaskCulture. It wasn't that difficult to find volunteers to work on the nominations committee, and it's really not that difficult to find people that will agree to run for positions. It's not always easy to put your name forward to run for an election. So I think it really speaks to how the community sees SaskCulture, that we have these people willing to volunteer their time.
I think it has a lot to do with how SaskCulture engages from, every part of the province and in every community. And I think people just really want to see us grow and flourish. It really is important.
Well, in my experience, I think that I'm a very passionate person, and I have had the experience of personal experience where in the heat of the debate, I find that my passion for what I believed in tend to overrule my ability to hear what others were saying. And I think that's a challenge. At least for me, it was a challenge. It may not be for other people. And that being passionate about something doesn't mean that it's right. It just means we feel strongly about it and what have you. As the conversation moves around the table, the meeting table and what have you, if others tend to agree or modify or whatever and so forth, or reject it, what have you, at least it's out there. But in other organizations I've been a part of, someone would get up and say something very strong and they feel strongly about it, then storm out of the room. And say, well, that's not helpful to anybody or to the organization and so on. And it doesn't mean you're righter than other folks are right, or more accurate or more correct. You just left the meeting. And that that requires a kind of, my wife would say, intestinal fortitude. Something she learned being married to me, I think. But, yeah, it does require intestinal fortitude and also respect for others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's incredibly energizing. I mean, there is a commitment. There are, commitments to board meetings. There's commitments to committee work, and of course, you want the linkages with membership and things like that. But it is very empowering and it's incredibly energizing.
And it's just so wonderful to share your passion with others that have a similar passion.
Yeah, and you learn from them as well. And going forward, future boards will take their passion and their energies,
Exactly.
and they will look at how to best position SaskCulture in the future. Right now at the 20-year mark, we're looking at what we did in the past. We celebrated that a bit, but we're really critically looking on our path forward for the next few years. How is SaskCulture going to present itself? And every time you turn around, there are different there's different things to consider. Our population and diversity has changed substantially in the last number of years, so we need to reflect that. And the TRC and the calls to action, that is a fundamentally important thing. We in Saskatchewan need to address and take steps to come towards truth and reconciliation. And something else might come up, but we need to keep moving this forward to ensure success. And that's sort of the passion of the volunteer, I think.
I just wanted to say my passion is with respect to the notion of consultation. And in consultation, I simply mean that whoever's sitting around the table, each person expresses what they wish to express. So my wife, I don't know if she came up with a song or I did, but it was sort of like we taught our kids, consultation is talking about what everyone is thinking about. You listen to them, they listen to you, and then you all decide what you want to do.
Out here on the prairie, you must tend the seedling so very carefully. When you plant a tree, you look beyond tomorrow to believe in what can happen. When you plant a tree, when you plant a tree, when you plant a tree.